What are three herbs all women in menopause should have in their house?
I would have sage for anxiety and stress and hot flashes. I would have bacopa for brain fog. Bacopa can help that brain fog just when you're like, oh my gosh, where did I put my keys? And then I would have rosemary in tincture that helps with circulation. Rosemary helps circulation of blood to the brain, to the tips of the fingers, to the tips of the toes. You could put all three in the same cup. And I would say those are my top three menopause herbs.
All right. Well, it's a real pleasure to have Sara Chana Silverstein on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited. One of my favorite topics.
I know we haven't covered herbs and we haven't ever spoken to an herbalist before. So I'm really curious to dive deep into which herbs are good for menopause and what we should have in our closet and things like that. But before we start, you call yourself, or I'm not sure if you call yourself, I found you as a master herbalist. So what is a master herbalist?
So I'm also an international board certified lactation consultant, not for this crowd, but I began my medical journey in a hospital, in clinics, working with pregnancy and post-pregnant moms. And I was really surprised how quick the doctors were to jump to steroids and antibiotics. Now, I want to begin this by saying allopathic conventional medicine has its place. I always tell my clients, if God forbid someone breaks their leg, please go get an x-ray, get your cast, and then come back to an herbalist. But I was watching all these new moms, and I knew, gosh, we could fix this breast infection without antibiotics. And we've got this inflammatory response post birth. And so I started looking into plant-based botanical medicine. And what I realized, of course, is that women have been giving birth, breastfeeding, and then going through perimenopause and menopause, by the way, for thousands of years. And women all over the world went to their local women healers that would hand them different herbs that grew at different times of the years. So if you have an emergency, again, I'm repeating, of course, we have the best acute emergency care in the world. But when it comes to hot flashes, mood swings, vaginal dryness, these things are not really approached in such a positive way around us. But herbalists do. So, what is a master herbalist? It means that I had medical training, I did anatomy and physiology, disease process. I had to learn about all the pharmaceuticals, their side effects, their benefits. And then I did a 5-year program to study plant-based botanical medicine.
Hmm.
So that means I'm a master herbalist. You have to have worked for over 10 years, which I've worked over 30 years. You have to have seen over 1,000 clients. I've seen over 45,000 clients. So I think at this point I qualify.
You do. And so, how is it an herbalist or master herbalist, let's say, because you've got such good qualifications? How is that different from a homeopath or a naturopath?
So I'm also a classical homeopath. I also, on top of that, did a 5-year classical homeopathic program. Most of my teachers were from India. They were MDs. And in India, where I was just there a couple of months ago, fantastic. A lot of the MDs will incorporate homeopathic remedies. So homeopathy is the little ballies that you place under your tongue. And herbs, which I'm going to show and talk about, are either in tea form or tincture. A naturopath goes to a school and studies general medicine, which I had done before I studied straight herbs, and then they can choose the area of expertise. But I chose mine right away.
Okay. So a naturopath, then you're saying is more of a broader education. And then from there, they can say, I want to go into, I don't know, cardiovascular health or,
Sure. Yes, exactly.
and a homeopath is somebody who studies the little ballies that we put under our tongue. Like if nobody's ever
Yes.
done that, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But it's big in Germany. I know Germany, they have homeopathic pharmacies. And so in those little ballies, are those herbs? Is that something else?
So it's also very popular in England and in France and in Belgium and in Italy. It is standard practice, by the way, with a lot of pediatricians because when a child has fluid in their ears, you don't need to jump to an antibiotic. You want to help the body reabsorb that fluid. So the little ballies or pellets have minerals, plants, different products, not products, different elements inside the remedy. So when you take a homeopathic remedy, you take the plant, you dilute it, do what is called succussing it, which is shaking it, because homeopaths believe that shaking the plant, the seed, or the mineral helps release the energy of the plant or mineral, and then they put it in these very convenient ballies. I remember a story. I had a woman whose child fell, and she thought that her child had broken her arm, and she called the pediatrician and said, "Give the child a dose of arnica and meet me at the office." She called me frantically, "Oh my gosh, what is arnica?" So for this pediatrician, even in America, it was so standard because arnica can help reduce inflammation, can help alleviate the pain when you're on the way to getting a cast.
Mm.
So homeopathy is very easy to carry. It's small little vials. I don't have one in front of me. I'm sorry. You can literally, my son was a baseball player. Well, he still is, but was a collegiate baseball player. And I never showed up at an event without arnica. Who knew? Someone was going to be hit with a baseball. It happened all the time. So homeopathy is very diluted and concentrated, whereas herbs, which we're going to get into, is the plant itself. We're going to use either the leaf, the seed, the stem, or the root, or we're going to mix the entire plant together. So, for instance, dandelion. Common weed, everyone's spraying poison on it. And I'm like, no, don't spray the poison. It's one of the best plants available. So the leaf of dandelion is used for any swelling. If a woman has water retention, feels puffy, feels like before and after she flies that her feet swell a bit, that's where dandelion leaf is fantastic. The seed is for stones, bladder stones, kidney stones, gallbladder stones. The root of that will help. It also helps with skin conditions. Excuse me, if you have midlife breakouts, you can get some acne on your face, acne on your back. The seeds are fantastic to help the liver process the hormones that are shifting during perimenopause and menopause. The flowers, which is amazing. If you take the beautiful yellow dandelion flowers, put them in oil, let them sit for 6 to 8 weeks and dilute it, it actually gets rid of skin tags. So a lot of women that are struggling with their blood sugar will get excess skin tags. So of course, as an herbalist, I want to approach the sugar imbalance, but you can take the oil, put it on a skin tag. You have to be consistent. And within about 2 months, those skin tags will just fall right off. Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
That is just one plant we're discussing, dandelion. Amazing.
Wow. Oh, that's super interesting. Skin tag solution, in addition to regulating the blood sugar, because right, because you always like to talk about getting to the root cause, and I'm sure those tags will probably keep popping up if you don't get to the blood sugar balance. But I want to give a little bit a visual because it's been a long time since I've seen homeopathic medicine. But if I remember, the little ballies were the size of like maybe half of a Tic Tac. What is it?
Let me grab one. So here's a homeopathic remedy. It's little tiny ballies.
Can you?
And when you take a homeopathic remedy, it's a
Uh-huh.
little tiny vial. You bop it on the back of your hand. Sometimes with humidity, they can stick together. Some of them have caps where you can just twist the cap. This is one where you pour. You
Uh-huh.
pour from the bottle into the cap, and from the cap, you place the ballies right under the tongue.
I want to see what they look like. Like, how big are they?
So these are really, can you see them?
Oh, yeah, one just popped out. Can you take it with your finger?
Sure. So these are the ones I have here are really, really small.
Oh my God. It's really
Yeah.
much smaller. It's like a quarter of a Tic Tac or something.
Yes. So
Very.
they have different sizes because I do a lot of pediatrics besides premenopause, perimenopause, and menopause. These are safe for children. They dissolve very quickly. So they come in different sizes. They can be from a grain of sand to about maybe a third of a size of a Tic Tac. And you just let it dissolve under your tongue.
So, if I get it correctly, you said that homeopathic, these little bolies are concentrated herbs, whereas if you're prescribing an herb through a tincture or a tea, it's the actual whole plant. So, I'm kind of relating it to, let's say you went bought a supplement with EGCG, which is the compound in green tea that's supposed to be super powerful and great for inflammation. So, is the homeopath kind of like the supplement, and then the actual green tea and drinking green tea or matcha, which is the whole leaf, equivalent to what I'm trying to think of here?
Okay, so let me clarify a bit because it's not exactly like that. So, herbalists do not like to isolate parts of a plant. What we find, for instance, and I'm going to get back to your question, but this is a great segue. So, we're used to Tylenol and Advil, and we have all these pain relievers, and I'm grateful. Believe me, if I'm running to the airport and I have a headache, even as an herbalist, I'm going to grab an Advil and I'll figure it out when I get to my next destination. But years and years ago, for pain, we didn't have much. So when aspirin became available, it was actually shifting of the world, because if you had a toothache or a migraine or cramps during your cycle, aspirin was fantastic. Aspirin is made from a plant called white willow bark. And what they did was they isolated the salicylic acid from the plant. Now, that's fantastic because the salicylic acid is the main part of the plant that deals with pain. But we don't know why the creator put in 150 other compounds that we don't know what they're there for. But we find that when people take long term aspirin, like a lot of people take baby aspirin, especially perimenopause and menopause, to thin their blood, tinnitus, ringing in the ears, is a side effect of long term aspirin use. Whereas if you took the whole plant, white willow bark, you would never have any side effects. Meaning, we don't like to isolate the components in green tea. We would want you to consume the entire part of the plant, not the plant, you don't have to do the root of green tea, the leaf, because there's components we still don't understand. So when you take the plant to heal, it also has components in it that's going to balance it inside your body so we don't get side effects. So we don't isolate. Now, homeopathy is also made from plants, roots, minerals, to be honest, poisons, different things. We make homeopathic remedies out of seawater, regular water, algae. So we're not taking it like a supplement. We're actually diluting it and diluting it. And when you dilute a substance, we as homeopaths believe that it gets stronger. It's a very complicated topic, which we can talk about. Herbs are quite simple. Homeopathy was only brought into the world in the mid to late 1800s. So this was kind of a new discovery as we started to use microscopes and diluting and understanding, whereas plant-based medicine has been used for generations.
So then homeopathy, you mentioned that you're diluting things, but if maybe I misunderstood before, I thought you said it's concentrated, or maybe that was something else, or is it kind
It's
of
it's
both?
it's I was just trying to give like an analogy that it's concentrated, but it's actually more diluted.
Hmm.
Homeopathy is the plant, mineral, poison, or substance diluted, succussed, and it's shaked.
Mhm.
It's very complicated. It's so funny. I want to let you know. One of my sons is a PhD physicist, and he goes, Ma, you can't talk about homeopathy. You can't talk about energy because we don't even understand it yet. I said, I know. So, homeopathy, okay, let me explain this. So, you come to me with menopause and you say to me, Sara Chana, I'm very dry vaginally and I feel exhausted. Okay. Those are your main symptoms. So I would say, let's start with an herb called shatavari. Shatavari is an Indian Ayurvedic herb. It's a moisturizer and it's an energizer. It's a green plant and it's got all the trace vitamins and minerals. So we'd start you on shatavari. But then if you said to me, I have to tell you, my marriage is not great. I lost my mother recently. I'm really sad in my core. My menopausal symptoms are just adding to it, but I really felt like my life was going to go in one direction and it took an immediate left turn and I'm lost. Then I, who am also trained in homeopathy, would suggest a remedy called Ignatia. So homeopathy shifts the emotional and energetic path a person's on, whereas herbs go in and heal the tissue. So when I use herbs, I'm going to give you herbs that will help you feel better and let the physical body feel better going through perimenopause and menopause. Homeopathy can shift the energy when a woman's stuck and allows them to take the next step to exercise. Let's talk about that example. So I have a woman that's a little overweight, and let's say she's talking about anxiety and hot flashes. So I may suggest the herb sage. Sage is fantastic. It can really help with anxiety and it can really help with those hot flashes. I like it better than black cohosh, which we'll talk about in a moment. So then I say to her very lovingly, I really think you should exercise a little. And she goes, I know it in my intellect, but I just can't get my body to move. Okay, so is there any exercise you like? No, Sara Chana, I just like to sit on the couch and watch shows. Okay, so the sage is going to definitely help with those hot flashes. It's definitely going to help with any kind of anxiety, but I'm not getting her off the couch. So then I would take a little bit more of a history. What was your childhood like? Homeopaths will take an hour and a half to 2 hour history to really get a whole understanding. We do as herbalists also. And I realized that it would benefit her to take the homeopathic remedy called sepia. Sepia, the little ballies, the little pellets you put under your tongue. Sepia is for people that feel like couch potatoes and they don't do well with hormonal swings. And they love their family, but don't want to be around their family, but don't want to be alone, right? They want someone in the house, but they don't want someone to talk to them. They want someone to leave them alone. But they don't want to be alone, but they want to be with their family, but they don't want to be alone, right? So here I have this woman that maybe she retired and she used to have to run to the train to get to work. And now she's sitting on her couch and she's gaining weight and she's depressed and she can't move. So I would give her the herb sage either in tea or tincture form, but I would also suggest a homeopathic remedy because I need to shift her and get her off that couch. So homeopathy works on the energy that keeps us stuck. I'm repeating, and the herbs work on the tissue. Like if someone feels that they have a sore throat, I'm going to give them an herb like echinacea. Great, their throat is going to feel better. But if they're afraid of their boss and they find that they really need to get a raise and they're intimidated of being rejected, then I'm going to also add a homeopathic remedy. So they work on two different passages in the body. Herbs are on the tissue and the lymphatic system and the muscles and the blood flow, and herbs work a little more on the psyche.
So it sounds
Homeopathy works on the psyche,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, it sounds like homeopathy is more mental and physical, and plants and herbs are more physical.
Yes, homeopathy can also be physical, but like when someone comes to me for a homeopathic remedy for sciatica pain, pain down their leg, I'm going to send them to a craniosacral therapist or a chiropractor because there's something pushing on the nerve. To me, that would be physical hands-on care the person needs as opposed to a homeopathic remedy.
Hmm.
If I have a woman that's emotionally stuck, I can give her some herbs, which we're going to talk about, but homeopathy works on a very deep level. Now, there's 8,500 homeopathic remedies as of the last time I checked. And when you work with a homeopath, you really have to commit to doing a handful of follow-ups because people are complicated and it can take a while for the homeopath to really understand why and where you're stuck. Whereas if you come to me or an herbalist, I'm going to give you an herbal tincture that you're going to start feeling better in the next 1 week to 6 weeks for sure. So I feel that with herbs, people are going to get quicker results. And it's funny because when I went to school, I first did a 5-year program in classical homeopathy. And in India, physical care is less money, it's less expensive. Private care is quite costly, but they have homeopathic clinics all over India. So you can go weekly to a homeopathic clinic for 2 months, have the homeopath really get to know you. And they understand in India that healing can be a slow process, slow and deep. So when I did the 5-year program, I was like, my clientele is mostly Americans, although I do work internationally thanks to Zoom. And my clients are like, they're not so patient. They kind of want quick care. They really want to get better fast. So then I went back and did another 3-year program in herbal medicine because I felt like people needed to feel kind of a quicker shift. And then when they feel that, they'll have more patience to go through homeopathic care, right? One of my homeopaths said, you have a client that comes to you, terrible sinus infection, repeated sinus infections. He's a man, he's getting chronic migraines from it. He needs his sinuses to clear. He's already had surgery, he's already been on antibiotics. You're kind of the last resort. So you're sitting with him and you realize he has these huge mommy issues. And because of these mommy issues, he's not being kind to his wife and he doesn't have a great relationship with his kids. So my homeopathic teacher said, if you don't get that guy's sinuses to feel better, you're never going to get to the mommy issues. You can't say, your sinuses are a problem, but like, I really see that your mommy issues are getting in your way. He's not going to stay with you. So it's very important to fix the symptoms so that you can build that relationship as a homeopath. So he'll come back and maybe open up a little. Maybe we can get him to listen to his wife a little more, maybe actually take her out on a date, right? Not going to happen until he has that confidence with me. So first I'm going to give him herbs to help the sinuses, to drain the sinuses, to reduce the inflammation and stop those migraines. Now he's like, Sara Chana, I don't understand what she does. She's an herbalist. She's a homeopath. But you know what? My sinuses are feeling better. So I say, hey, come in for a follow-up. And then I can slowly but surely get into the psyche, right? So that's why I went back to school and did herbal botanical medicine after homeopathy because I felt that people needed that instant relief. And with menopause, we can definitely revisit their life and their life choices. But if they're getting itchy on their skin while they're going through menopause, let's get rid of the itch and then we can establish that relationship.
Well, it sounds that homeopathy, or as a homeopathic practitioner, you're also a psychologist. You go through personal issues like a therapist, right?
Yes, yes. So in homeopathy, we do anatomy and physiology, disease process. We go over pharmaceuticals. We go over all the 8,000 remedies. And we have many courses on the psyche. So homeopaths believe that the mind-body connection is not a new understanding. We know that things will manifest in the body from different psychological things that we're going through, and that's a very big part of it. But some people are not ready or don't want to deal with that. They just want their physical symptoms to get better. You and I, Zora, who know the mind-body connection, we know that, the physical symptoms can keep on popping up if we don't get to the mind also, but we have to see where the patient is at, right? We have to build that trust with the patient. So, yes, there's a lot of psychology that goes on. So,
Mhm.
I also did a 3 year life coaching program. I'm not a life coach, but I wanted to understand how to help people set goals and reach goals. Because for me, I thank God love exercising. My challenge is how do I fit it in my crazy life? If a person doesn't like exercising, we have to psychologically analyze why they don't like it, what physical pain they may be having from moving, and what could we possibly do to help them move more in their life.
That sounds great. I like this approach. I mean, it's not just here's your herbs and get on with it, but you have a whole other plan. But you mentioned homeopathy being a bit more energetic or getting that patient off the couch and trying to give her some more energy to go to the gym. So it makes me think of the mitochondria. Is it affecting the mitochondria at some level?
So, in homeopathy, we don't have the scans we need to see the shift. If I have a client with gallstones and we have a scan and I give them a homeopathic remedy and or herbs, we can see under a scan what's going on with the gallbladder, right? If we see a child that has swollen tonsils, we can see very clearly that the tonsils are shrinking, or a child has fluid in their ears. So, how do we really test the mitochondria? How do we test it? What scans are we looking at? So, homeopathy is going to shift the body back to its homeostasis and where it can heal. So we have something in homeopathy called a miasm. Okay. A miasm is a pre inherited disposition that you're born with, kind of like newest genetic and genes, right? So we as homeopaths and herbalists have spoken about the pre inherited condition for a very long time. So if I have a woman that comes into me and she's postmenopausal and she's kind of short and she's a little bit chubby and she's big boned, this is a woman that is stout, right? And she comes into me and says, I got to lose 30 pounds and I want to be a size 4. So for me as a homeopath and an herbalist, I have to really look at the genetics. Now, I don't know that she's going to be a size 4. I don't know if she was ever a size 4. So I have to ask a little bit of a history. What was your mother like? What was her weight like? What was her father like? And I do a whole tree. I do her parents, the grandparents, and if we can, the great grandparents. And I ask about diabetes, high blood pressure. I ask about skin conditions. Was there any psoriasis or eczema? So I do a whole family tree in my office so I understand what gene she's kind of stuck with, right? And that way I can really help guide her to the healing that her body is capable of healing at, right? So I have a very tall woman, African American woman, who was a triathlon. She was an athlete and she's tall and she's lean and she's muscular. And she went through menopause and she kind of let everything fall apart. I know that we can get her back to that more muscular structure. We can take a little weight off of her because her essence was to be a tall, thin athlete, right? So when I take her history and the history of her parents, I understand the genetics of where we can help her reach her goals. And we have to make sure that the goals are logical and reasonable. And that's called miasm. I'm going to take that history to know where her real limitations in the genes are, because the truth is that we're kind of born with what we have. We're born with our metabolism. Can we increase it? Yes. But I just had a woman in my office the other day and she said, I'm chubby since I'm 4 years old. Like, I've just been a chubby girl. So now she gave birth to her sixth child, and she was pregnant with her seventh child. And she's like, I don't want to gain weight during this pregnancy. I said, well, you have to gain weight for the baby's health. And let's talk about This is just who you are in this world. You're still beautiful, you're smart, you're creative, you're capable. You may not be that skinny, twiggy woman. It's okay. So, as an herbalist and a homeopath, I have to really see what the potential is. So, we have to make sure that our goals are ones we can reach. So on Instagram, take this herb and lose 50 pounds. This herb is the natural Ozempic. No, it's not. Berberine is not a natural Ozempic. So in my office, I'm not going to ever sell someone or tell someone about a product that doesn't do what it's claimed to do. So this is what makes me a little crazy with social media. I love it. I'm on Instagram also. Everyone can follow me. I put up little 1 minute videos as often as I can about herbs. I go out to the plants. I show in the backyards, in alleys. I have all these herb walks in the middle of Brooklyn, but I'm not going to tell you that a plant can do something it's not going to do.
So you're saying that you actually don't even need to look at genetics or run through some other medical, I guess, background in order to be able to help somebody because you are asking a full history of them and assuming, and I guess it can go the other way. Somebody can say, well, I was chubby and now I'm thin, or I was thin,
Sure.
now I'm chubby. Like yeah, I guess it could change, but perhaps with the questions that you ask, you know exactly what to ask to pull out their genes. And no, I don't know how, but do you ever get curious to run through their genes and say, oh, I was right or I was wrong?
Well, I do love blood work and scans. I definitely ask clients to go and get different blood panels, which I definitely love. And if we can get certain scans, but homeopaths and herbalists don't really need either of those.
Mhm.
We really are phenomenal question askers. When I teach homeopathy and herbs to other medical professionals, I guest lecture at medical schools and other medical places. I say that Western doctors do have blood tests and scans. Lucky, love it. And as an herbalist, if we can get a scan, I'm always high-fiving, loving it. Acupuncturists take the pulse and take the tongue. But herbalists and homeopaths, we study what is called case taking for the first year and a half of our training. It's case taking, how to listen, how to ask questions, what questions to ask, and we can usually understand things without any scans. I mean, scans are great. Don't get me wrong. I love Western medicine. Wherever Western medicine, conventional medicine can help me, sure. But our case taking is phenomenal. And there were studies done that shows that just letting the person tell their story can sometimes be up to 50% of the healing. So minimally, my clients get an hour and a half, minimally. And I'm a big talker. I'm talking to you nonstop. But when I'm taking a case, I'm a listener. And I listen to everything. And if they go up too far off on a tangent, I know how to bring them back. But they get like an hour and 15 minutes of just telling me where they're at, what they've tried, what has worked, what hasn't worked. I try to take their history from birth, talking about their parents and grandparents. They love it. Like people love coming to a homeopathic and herbal consultation. They feel heard. They feel empowered. They feel listened to. In my practice, I let people WhatsApp or text message me. No voice notes. I can't listen to it. So if there's something they forgot about or email, they can send me that and I'll add that to their chart so they feel heard. And then when I go to use just plant-based medicine, botanical, herbal medicine, I show them a picture on my phone of the plant, of the flower, of the root we're using, and their eyes just sparkle. One herbalist who I'm so jealous, she has this farm. I'm in Brooklyn. So she has this farm. She takes them out and lets them smell the plants and touch the plants. I don't have that luxury, but I show them the picture. Like if I was dealing with a woman with fertility challenges, we use Chinese peony. The peony flower is gorgeous. Peonies are one of the most gorgeous flowers in the world. So we're using the root of that. So if I show show them that with an herb called a berry called chase tree or vitex, which is this beautiful tree with these beautiful berries. When she gets her tincture, that's her medicine she's going to get. She knows what's in there. There's not ingredients that she can't pronounce. When you make an herbal tincture, so those of you that are listening, I'm going to describe it, and those of you that are watching, here we go. We take a plant, and here's the leaf of a plant called mullein.
And they're dried leaves. I'm
Some
literally.
are dried and some are fresh.
Mhm.
We pour grain alcohol over the plant. We let the plant sit for 6 or 8 weeks, and then we strain it and we get a tincture. So here is one of my tinctures. So here's a glass bottle. This is my traveling one. They're usually much
Dark,
bigger.
dark,
And
round. Yeah.
it's dark. Yes, it's a glass ball jar. And this has a red plant in it. It's got a berry in there. And I put grain alcohol over it. I let it sit for 6 to 8 weeks. And then you get what is called a tincture. A tincture is a liquid of the plant. So the when you put grain alcohol, but if we have someone that has a problem with alcoholism, we can put what is called a glycerite over it. The glycerite or the tincture, the grain alcohol works better, and the tincture then has a 10-year shelf life. Pharmaceutical companies do not want to hear that we can make a medicine that has a 10-year shelf life. This tincture has all the components of the plant broken down by the grain alcohol. And under a microscope, this doesn't look like straight grain alcohol. It's got all the components and the composition of the plant.
And
So
it's like a dropper, just in case people don't
it's
know.
a dropper. Yes,
You
it's a
just take a
liquid.
you take a few drops, or you take 20 drops or 30, or how do people
Well,
take?
we can't diagnose or treat, obviously, but theoretically, you get a shot glass. So I'm showing just a typical shot glass. And I'm going to take anywhere from 25 to 45 drops.
Mhm.
And I'll take the tincture and I will put the drops in the shot glass. Boom, 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 boom. You
Mhm.
don't have to count exactly. You take a little grape juice or water and down it like vodka. So taking tinctures are so quick and efficient. You can put this in a 1 ounce or 2 ounce jar and travel with it. You can get an 8 ounce jar if we're doing long term. It's very quick to take a tincture. If you're running in the morning and you're running to work, boom, you take your tincture. It literally takes you 10 seconds and boom. And we like to take tinctures 3 times a day. It could be morning, dinner, and before you go to bed. The next day, it could be morning, lunch, and dinner. With tinctures, if I suggest the dosage to be 3 times a day, but you go away for the weekend and you forgot it, no problem. Go back to taking it. If you'd like to take it midday, you can have 2 bottles, one at your desk at work and one at home. And when you take a tincture, the body absorbs it very, very quickly. And the herbs will start healing the tissues, the blood flow in your body. And herbs can work on the psyche. So I want to jump to that for a minute. So we did speak about homeopathy and the mind, of course, but there are certain herbs that can also help with menopausal symptoms throughout a woman's life. So rose petals, which I usually have on the top here, rose petals are a phenomenal herb for sadness and grief. So when you go to hospitals, most hospitals have roses to bring up to the patients. Roses have been used for generations. They're very high in vitamin C and they help with feelings of grief and sadness. So when you hand someone roses, they feel better. Clinical studies show that whether it's a male or a female or a youth or an adult or geriatric, when you hand them flowers and especially roses, their heart instantly gladdens. So we know that when you drink rose tea, it helps with the grief. So Another way to take herbs is in tea form. So here I have this gorgeous teapot here for those that you that are just listening. It's a glass teapot, and inside it has a filter. So if you're a tea drinker and going through grief, you could literally make a pot of rose tea. You could drink it warm or cold. You could add some honey to it or any sweetener and drink it throughout the day. Here's a travel container. So some of my clients would rather take the tea form than the tincture. And this is travel. I'm showing a glass travel container. It's got this adorable little filter right here. So easy, so inexpensive. You put the tea leaves, flowers, or stems here, pour boiling water over it, and then you start drinking it when it cools down to the temperature that you like.
Mhm.
So for me as an herbalist, I usually suggest tinctures for people on the run.
Mm.
People on the run. And then if they're tea drinkers, I suggest another tea that they can drink besides green tea. Most people only know about green tea or coffee. But
Mhm.
for instance, hibiscus, hibiscus flowers are all edible, all hibiscus. They're gorgeous. They grow all over the world. I just started traveling. I know, Zora, you're a traveler. I'm a mother of 7 children. I have 5 boys and 2 girls. I had to wait for my kids to grow up. Now they are. So now I can travel. I was just in India and Japan. So exciting. But wherever I travel, I see hibiscus flowers everywhere, completely edible. You can take the petals, use them fresh or dried. They're just as powerful dried. They make a gorgeous red tea. I like to use the red or pink ones, but the white and yellow are also edible. I just feel like the red is a little more powerful and it helps lower blood pressure. It is fantastic, Zora. Like a lot of my clients that are perimenopause or postmenopause, their blood pressure is like, it's a little off, but they don't quite need medication. They're working on their exercise. Hibiscus tea is unbelievable. There's an herbalist in Chicago. Her community is mostly African American and they don't like to take medicine. So she's an MD and an herbalist, and her lecture was fantastic. She said she didn't know what to do because in the Black community, they do have higher incidence rates of high blood pressure. They loved her because she was so smart and savvy. So she started buying big, huge bags of hibiscus tea. And instead of prescribing medicine, unless it was over the top, she would give them a little strainer like this, which I just bought in Japan. It's a little bamboo strainer. And she would, for $3, give them a big bag of hibiscus. She said all of a sudden the rates of her patients' blood pressure were getting to normal. She said they'd ice it in the summers, hibiscus iced tea, yum, add lemon, add honey. In the winter, they love the warm hibiscus tea. And she said she could not believe she didn't have the statistics, she didn't have the clinical double blind studies, because we can talk about why people are not studying herbs enough. But she taught us that those borderline high blood pressure, just the tea hibiscus can change people's lives. How easy is that?
How long does it take before somebody's blood pressure goes down?
It will decrease right after drinking the tea. And I would say a good 4 to 8 weeks, they should see a consistent difference.
If they drink it every day?
Correct. I would like hibiscus tea. But again, if you go away for a weekend or you forget it, don't worry about it. Like I like loose tea. I like the tea in bulk. This is lavender, which we'll talk about next. But you can get the tea bags. But if you're going to use the tea bags, you need at least 3 tea bags to get the medicinal benefits of hibiscus. So if I have clients that travel, they'll just bring hibiscus tea. They'll bring it on the plane with them. They'll just add it for hot water, put in their 3 tea bags, and they're good to go. Sit on the plane, read a book, watch a show, chill, and drink your hibiscus tea when you're getting to your next destination. Fantastic.
So I can understand getting the loose leaves perhaps at a health shop, or maybe there is herbal shops around. But What about tinctures? Because you said they need to sit for several weeks or I don't know, maybe months, and some in oil, some in alcohol. And that seems a bit more complicated. So, how are we supposed to get our hands on some of those herbs?
Great question. So, first of all, on Amazon, and I'm not pushing Amazon, you can get bulk herbs. You don't have to go to health food stores anymore. They're totally available, and you can buy them in 1 pound, 2 pound, 4 pound. So, if you're a tea drinker, if my client's a tea drinker, we'll use sometimes two or three herbs at the same time. For tinctures, nobody has to make tinctures. I do have a school called Moodtopia Academy, which you can reach on my website. And in my school, we teach how to make tinctures and oils. And those are people that are really committed to it. And we talk about anxiety and stress and high blood pressure and varicose veins and all that. And it's an hour and a half class once to twice a month. But for people that don't want to make the tinctures, they're available all over the world on the internet. They make tinctures in Spain, Portugal, Argentina, Iraq. They're everywhere. So tinctures are very easy to get. So when you're first starting with herbs and you're not a master herbalist, I don't think people should start going and getting their own herbs. I think that you should buy pre-made herbs. When you buy herbs in bulk form, if you want to make a tea, it will say on the bag, roses from Morocco, harvested on this date, edible. So you have a big, huge, Morocco has fantastic roses, by the way. So you'll get that bag and boom, you'll put it in a glass jar or seal it tight. You're done. You don't have to do it again. Tinctures, would you like me to mention some of the companies that I don't represent that I like? Okay, so I'm not advocating any, but there's a company called Herb Farm, HERBPHARM, run by a fantastic herbalist, Ed Smith. And those tinctures are vegetarian, vegan. All tinctures are checked for lead, contaminants. Everyone's in America is concerned they're not FDA approved. Well, the plants are FDA approved. And so that's not true. And they really are very strict on checking. Another company I like is a company called Wish Garden Herbs. All these are available now around the world. That's a fantastic herbalist. She's in Colorado. She's a midwife and master herbalist. She makes fantastic blends. And then my teacher is a man named David Winston, and he has a company called Herbalist and Alchemist. And I have been to that plant. It is fantastic. You're wearing a head covering, you're covering your shoes, you're not touching anything. I mean, the security and the safety of these herbal plants are a 10 on a scale of 1 to 2. So you should begin by buying tinctures from a well-established herbalist that has a plant. And again, they're FDA approved the plants. If you're in Europe, I don't know all the European companies, but my clients will send me pictures of the product, the back of the product. I will see what it is and I'll do my own research. But tinctures getting around the world is easy peasy, peasy peasy easy.
Yeah, it sounds, I've lived in many countries and I can recall stores or shops,
Yes.
Chinese medicine pharmacies. I lived in Hong Kong. And so the question that I have then, because even in Hong Kong, all the locals would tell me, well, be very careful because we don't really know what's in there. And there's different prices. And especially when it comes like cordyceps mushrooms, which is very expensive. And then they have the broken ones that are a bit cheaper. And then they'd have the very large ones, which were perfect. And then they just said there's a lot of scamming going around where it's not actually, you're not, may not get what you want. So this is the question I think we all have, even if you order on Amazon, we're like, what should we be looking for in terms of it's great that you gave us names because we're going to have to assume
Okay.
that you've done your due diligence and you talk
Yes.
about FDA approved and all that. But when we're going around the world, it's so easy. There's very little regulation. And so I always would have to revert to a friend or a doctor or somebody. And all I have to do is like, because I don't know what to look for. I don't know if this is real or not real, or maybe this is good quality, a low quality. So I'm wondering then if there are any, if you were in India, I mean, you know, the sanitary, how unhygienic it is there. What would you do in India? How would you decide on what is a clean or a good herb that is of high quality? Is there any little tips that we can have as we're traveling around the world?
So cordyceps is now not an expensive medicinal mushroom anymore. It is produced in greenhouses all over America, and cordyceps is a medicinal mushroom. My three top medicinal mushrooms are reishi, chaga, and cordyceps. So in America, and I understand your question international, we're going to get to that. In America, I work with a company called Birch Boys. They're in the Adirondacks of New York. That's upstate New York, way upstate New York. And with Birch Boys, they literally climb the trees, and they get the mushrooms. Here, I have a reishi mushroom right here. It's kind of ugly. It's this big brown, it grows out the side of a tree. Reishi mushroom is it reduces inflammation. It's an immunomodulator and can help stimulate the immune system. It's something great when you're traveling. And Birch Boys is certified organic. A lot of these places are certified kosher. So in America, when they're certified kosher, that means there's no animal products whatsoever in them. That's another sign to look for. So in America, our products are fantastic. So I was in India and I was on a tour. It was so fantastic. And a woman slipped leaving a temple and broke her wrist. Okay. But she didn't want to go to a doctor in India, which I think she should have. And so she got a brace and she was just going to wait till she went back to South Africa. So I'm an herbalist. I was sitting there. She was my friend. So I asked the bus driver to take me to a homeopathic pharmacy. So I went to a homeopathic pharmacy, and there was an MD homeopath with a little teeny tiny store. I asked him to show me his mother tincture of the homeopathic remedy, the pellets. He was pouring it over. He did it right in front of me, and I gave her arnica for pain. And then I gave her apis for swelling, which is another homeopathic remedy. I felt it was fine. It was safe. And again, I do know what I'm looking for. When you're in these countries, though, when I went to Japan, I got there a day early. I had tennis elbow from not playing tennis, by the way, if only. And so when I got there a day early, I looked up an acupuncturist. I went to him. He was a 10 on a scale of 1 to 2. And I asked him where I could get good Japanese herbs. And he knew. And he actually had been educated in the States, then went back and got his doctorate in Japan. So my point of this story is it was a fantastic session. I want to like bring him from Tokyo to New York. But when you're in these countries, it's not that expensive it was only 75 American dollars. He gave me almost 2 hours of a consultation in acupuncture. So if you're traveling, you can go look up and ask around and find in India an Ayurvedic medicine doctor. They will show you their degrees. And believe me, anybody that's a serious practitioner like me is not going to give their patients or suggest anything but the top. So in India, you can get fantastic Shatavariyas from India. You can get Bacopa, which is for brain fog. But I do want to say one thing about turmeric. Now, it's very hard to get a good turmeric product in the world today because when you have turmeric powder, if you mix it with rice flour, the rice flour turns orange. So what they do, and I don't want to say in India because I love India, but they mix turmeric with rice flour. And in most countries, rice flour is considered an inert substance, doesn't even have to be listed. So most of the turmeric capsules are basically colored rice flour. So there's an example of not a great product. So I use turmeric oil, where they actually press the turmeric, get out all the oil of the turmeric, and my clients take these little nasty turmeric pills. Oh my gosh, terribly tasting. And I know, and especially for my post-cancer patients, that is true turmeric. So you asked about Hong Kong. Hong Kong is going to be a difficult place to get anything. Right next to China has all those Chinese products. And you're right, Chinese products are not regulated. You're 100% correct. But in India and Japan, they are. In Spain, they are regulated. So you'd be certain parts of the world, you have to be very careful. So I would suggest that whatever country you're in, you meet an herbalist or an acupuncturist. We're very well educated. Meet them. If you don't love them, find another one. You have to really connect to your practitioner. And I mean, when I'm making herbs for my clients, I am showing them where it's from, what the country origin is from. All my tinctures have organic approved. They also have kosher signs because I trust them. And thank God, in 32 years of work, we've never had any problems. So that's what I would suggest for world travelers, that you find someone in your country, tell them you're traveling, and they're going to teach you how to bring things with you. So, for instance, oh my gosh, so much to talk about. I will never travel without cinnamon capsules and black charcoal capsules in my suitcase. Cinnamon, and I like pure cinnamon called Ceylon, can kill E. coli, bacteria, and salmonella in your gut. So you go to Mexico, you go to South America. I'm not putting down any countries. I hope to travel the world. And you're not supposed to drink the water, but you do drink the water, right? In India, you're not supposed to drink the water, but if you brush your teeth and don't use bottled water, you can get a little bit of a stomach ache. Okay. Cinnamon is fantastic. Again, we're not diagnosing or treating on your podcast, but theoretically, two cinnamon capsules 2 to 3 times a day. If you have any stomach upset, diarrhea, belching, stomach indigestion, cinnamon will clear you within 24 to 48 hours. Black charcoal, it will eat up medicine. So if you're taking prescription medicine, don't take your black charcoal. But if you're not, and you get a stomach upset, even go to a restaurant, you alternate two black charcoals, then two cinnamon, two black charcoals, and it will save your life. So I had a lot of clients that were going back and forth to China on business. New Yorkers were just, when the doors were open, they were out there doing business. These businessmen never traveled without cinnamon and black charcoal, never. So that is the most important thing. I have a little container. I'm not showing it, but with my hands, it's a little square like this, and it's filled with cinnamon and black charcoal.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
But I've got so much to share too, but we have to wrap up. So I'm going to have a rapid fire question for you. Okay. So we'll see how many we can get through. Okay. If you could choose only one herb to have in your kitchen, which one would it be?
I think it would be reishi mushroom right now, an immunomodulator, helps with colds and flus, reduces inflammation. I think it's a fabulous herb everyone should have.
Okay. Sarah, you are a master herbalist. Okay. You mentioned that you've worked with, what, 45,000 women, men and women, and many of them probably in midlife. So if a woman in perimenopause came to you with sleep issues, what's the very first herb you'd think of?
So if I had the answer for sleep issues, I would be a multi-billionaire. I wouldn't be on this podcast. I'd be on some beach somewhere. Sleep is complicated. Complicated. I have to be honest. The most popular herb is passion flower. It's gorgeous. Everyone needs to look it up on their phone. It looks like it's an alien flower, but passion flower would be my one herb, but that's complicated. Next question.
Okay. You've seen the good, the bad, the ugly in the supplement world, I'm sure. What's the one herbal product you'd never touch and why?
There's not an herbal product I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't because herbs are not supplements. I'll give an example quickly. There's an herb called kava, and kava can also help with sleep and muscle pain. So, kava is a root. So, sometimes they'll pick the root too early, or sometimes they'll dry out the root too much. So, the herbalist I work with will send back the kava to the Philippines if it's not picked at the right time. But there's not an herbal, but I don't use supplements very much in my practice. There's not an herb I wouldn't not use.
Okay. All right. So what are three herbs should what sorry. What are three herbs all women in menopause should have in their house?
I would have sage for anxiety and stress and hot flashes. I would have bacopa for brain fog. Bacopa can help that brain fog just when you're like, oh my gosh, where did I put my keys? And then I would have rosemary in tincture that helps with circulation. Rosemary helps circulation of blood to the brain, to the tips of the fingers, to the tips of the toes. You could put all three in the same cup. And I would say those are my top three menopause herbs.
Do you have any thoughts on pycnogenol for hot flashes and menopausal symptoms, which is, I think, also called French pine bark, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Again, I don't like the way pycnogenol personally is processed. I don't use many plants that are in powder form because it's missing the elements. I want the green, I want the red, I want the yellow, I want the orange. I don't want just the white formulation or even the yellow formulation. I want the whole plant.
Okay, last question. What red flags should a woman look out for when buying herbal supplements online or at a health shop?
Usually the one that's a little more expensive would be better. Not that I'm trying to spend people's money. I personally would look at where it's produced and I would actually call the company and say, what's the name of the master herbalist overseeing your product? I remember, quick story. Oh my gosh, we're running out of time. I had a product that I loved for a very long time, and all of a sudden the herbs started not taste. I taste and smell every herb that comes through my office. And so I called the company and I said, I feel there's something wrong with the herb usnea. They said, oh, no, same usnea. I said, well, can I speak to John, the herbalist? And they said, oh, he passed away a couple months ago. I said, well, who's your new herbalist? And they said, oh, we haven't gotten one yet, and their herbal product changed. So whenever you're looking at an herb, call the company. Ask who the herbalist is. Ask them where they get their herbs from. If they can't answer your questions, don't use them. You want to speak to Cynthia, the herbalist. You want to know that she gets her roses from Bulgaria or Morocco. You want to know that she gets her sandalwood from India. You want to see that she knows things. So I have an essential oil company that I use, and I will only use her essential oils because she looks at every single plant and analyzes it before she turns it in to an essential oil. So know who you're buying your products from.
Okay, those red flags can't be too cheap, and they have to be able to answer the question, who is your herbalist? So I appreciate so much everything that you're doing. I'm fascinated. I've learned so much about herbs and plants. I know I'm gonna now stick with tinctures and teas and or a homeopathic treatment if I go to a homeopathic practitioner, but you've convinced me really on the herbs. But it's fascinating, and I encourage everyone to follow you on Instagram at Sara Chana's and also your website, sarachana.com. Is there any other things you'd like to share before we let you go?
Yes, so I have a free handout, a download on my website for your listeners. You go on sarachana.com, sarachana.com, and I'm going to have a menopause handout for you where I talk about my favorite herbs, and you can print it, leave it on your desktop, put it on your refrigerator so you'll have a handy, quick guide. And as you said on my Instagram at Sara Chana SaraChanas. You can always send me messages through Instagram or my website. Myself or my staff will get back to you. And I just want to repeat that I will show the plant on Instagram. I will show you how to use a tincture. They're 1 minute little tiny clips so people can start to feel more familiar. And I would like people to be able to have the confidence to include herbal plant-based medicine in their life.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who's reached the end. You're obviously as curious as I am in terms of herbs and menopause. And I appreciate your time, spending your time with me and Sara. And I will see you next time.
Keep up your amazing work. It was so great speaking with you.